Didn't want to do this, but welcome back to another video. Let's just rip that plaster off nice and quick, deal with this loss, try and move on from it. City, of course, lost 3-2 yesterday in the most painful fashion against Spurs, and today I'm going to talk about 5 things that I personally took from this game. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, if you are a fan of this kind of content, do hit that like button, do hit the subscribe button. Even you Spurs fans who've come over here to try and rub it in my little face, go for it. You don't get much joy these days, so take it when you can do. Got yous. No, they won yesterday, so who knows. Anyway, I want to say quickly, before I get into the 5 things learned, I've got a really cool little thing for City fans here, and anyone else, of course, watching this. Football prizes, I've been working them for some time now, but they've got a new competition available right now. 2 Tunnel Club tickets. So the Tunnel Club is amazing, by the way. If you've not been there before, it's essentially like dead fancy, bougie stuff at the Etihad, where you get like, you can watch the players come in behind this screen and all this kind of stuff. It's amazing. And there's 2 of tickets available for just £3.99 to enter into this competition, which ends on Tuesday. Only 16 tickets have been bought so far, so the odds are pretty good. And either way, if you don't win it, fair enough. But if you do, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I've been there, and it was an absolutely incredible experience for me personally. So good luck. Fingers crossed one of you guys wins, a blue wins. If you do, let me know as well. So the first thing that we learned, and this sounds really basic, losses really hurt. The problem with Pep Guardiola is that he's so absolutely brilliant, so absolutely dominating and all-consuming, is that we forget what it feels like to lose a game sometimes. And I mean that in the best possible sense. Guardiola has taught us nothing but success, really. Obviously, we had the failures here and there, Spurs being one of the teams that bring it on us more than most. But largely, life is very good for us. We haven't tasted defeat domestically since well into last year, literally October or something like that. So we were on a run domestically that was incredibly impressive, and we'd not really lost not on our own terms for some time. So this was a reminder of that feeling. And the thing is, when you don't experience something for a long time, you don't get used to it as much. And City fans in general, including myself, have been through an awful lot of pain growing up and so on. I understand what it's like to watch a team get relegated, and understand pain. And it's crazy that this loss hurt me so much more than the losses used to. And what I mean by that is because I guess we used to be so used to them when City were terrible. But now, a single loss, despite being top of the table and in a great position, it really stings. And I guess it's just very normal. And I guess maybe we forget that feeling that we can't always be perfect all the time. And I would honestly wager an awful lot that the players today are probably already over it. Not in a bad sense, more because within football they understand that it's relatively normal to lose a game of football. It is. That's just how life works. We've not been taught that for a long time, but it is normal. Teams lose games, and Guardiola absolutely won't be panicking. You would have expected a loss at some point, you know, and this was it. After an incredible winning streak, an incredible run of games. So we have to essentially just remember that this is very much part of football. Painful, but part of football, yes. And we've been very, very lucky. The second thing I personally learned, Ruben Dias is human. It doesn't often feel that way, does it? Because Ruben Dias has been absolutely imperious at times for Manchester City. It's been a hell of a signing. One of the best signings in a blue shirt for absolutely ages. Honestly, I love Big Ruben more than you could possibly imagine. He is a stalwart, a leader, fantastic footballer. But yesterday, it didn't go well for him. And I guess it showed exactly what can happen if one of your more reliable players has a bad day. And it wasn't just him. There was other players as well. And I'm going to get onto someone in a minute after this. But it wasn't just him. But you can't probably really get away with a game against Spurs if their best, you know, they're the best striker, the best probably winger, has a great day, and your centre-back has a bad day, and your centre-backs or your defenders in general don't really turn up. That's just how it is in football, unfortunately. And do you know what? Diaz is absolutely owed a bad day. And unfortunately, it was against Spurs and Harry Kane and Son and so on. But he is owed a bad day, you know. And what I mean by that is he's pretty much won our trust implicitly, and he's only human. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes. I've uploaded the wrong versions of videos before. You've definitely just done something wrong at school or at work or with your family or whatever. Happens to all of us, and probably the problem is sometimes if it happens at the same time where a few people have a bad day, you're probably going to lose a game like City did yesterday. Maybe there was an argument that John Stones should have played yesterday. I'd probably actually buy into that, mainly because we're playing such a high line that physically our best defender running backwards is probably John Stones. I think Stones is the best turn of pace. He also really suits these kind of games where the ball's thrown into the air a little bit. He's probably our best in the air defensively, I reckon. Stones really underrated, and I feel like he would have been on Kane a little bit tighter, which does lead me to the next thing, by the way. The next point is that Rodri was lost. Rodri had a poor game as well, unfortunately. I don't really think he was fully to blame for this. There was some reports that suggested that the game was lost in general when they didn't know how to handle Harry Kane. And Harry Kane yesterday was absolutely fantastic, by the way. A genuinely world-class player. Making a mug out of me for saying I didn't want him. It was never because he wasn't brilliant, by the way. It was just because I didn't want him as who he was. But Kane, obviously fantastic. But Rodri and the defenders yesterday, they didn't really know what to do with Harry Kane. Harry Kane dropping deep, playing those through balls to Son was essentially their game plan yesterday. That's not a criticism because it worked. And if it works, do it. Fair enough, football can be pragmatic. But Harry Kane had so much joy yesterday when I felt like maybe we could have just really tried to nullify that channel. I know it's not a man-marking thing that we do, but an element of that would have been really useful. At least zonal, maybe. If the ball went anywhere near Kane in that area, go on him, man. But Kane had so much joy yesterday, finding those pockets between the centre-backs and the midfielders. And the centre-backs didn't know whether to go with Kane, and Rodri didn't know where to stick on him. And Rodri looked a little bit lost. He was doing his usual game, but he probably could have done with being a little bit more cautious. That's understandable. And I think that's probably where it was lost. There was reports that they discussed this in the dressing room, but that's where the game, for me, unfortunately, it went awry there because Rodri, Dias didn't have the best times. The fourth thing that I learned is that really, Manchester City could do with a plan B, let's be honest. Liam Delap was on the bench yesterday, and I understand Guardiola's hesitation to not throw in a raw, teenager in a big game against world-class players like Son and Kane, and obviously Conte, an incredible manager. But there was an element of Manchester City's play yesterday that felt repetitive. In this instance, if you're just going to whip in crosses to a bunch of 5'7" forwards, what is the point? Genuinely? Maybe put that bulldozing young English centre forward who loves nothing more than a physical battle on in the last gasp hope that he gets his head on something. There was a couple of crosses I remember where the ball came across the box towards the end where I think Liam Delap would be at the back post there winning that header. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that he would have turned the game around for us, but I do think if we're going to go into crossing mode, which tends to happen with Manchester City when they're not playing well, we go into crossing mode, fair enough, if that's what it's going to be. We need to have the right tools available to make that actually work. And in this instance, we didn't. Put the lap on Pep. I'm not going to tell you how to do your job, but in my personal opinion anyway, and Pep knows a damn sight more about me and you and the rest of us watching his videos about football. But in this instance, I feel like Liam Delap would have been a pretty good wild card to throw on there because he does have that physicality, he does have that strength to his game, he does have that awareness, and maybe he could have just got his head on a header at the back post, 6'2", built like a brick shithouse, an absolute rampaging, bulldozing striker. He could have been useful. Eventually, we are going to sign a striker. I like the false nine system, it works for us, but sometimes it will be quite useful to have that plan B. And this is where, for now, I'd like to see Delap given that chance every now and then. And the final thing that we learned is, well, Rodri is human, Dias is human, and guess what? So is Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola is also very human. What I mean by that, very fallible. He's brilliant, he's a genius, he's different than most, admittedly, but he's also human and also prone to making bad calls, and I think he did make some mistakes yesterday. Tactically, City felt a little bit off even from the start, from the get-go. Cancelo was pushing a lot further forward than usual instead of drifting playmaking from a little bit deeper. Bernardo Silva was often over on the left when he's a right centre midfielder. Phil Foden was on the right a little bit. Bernardo Silva genuinely was often playing as a winger at times, despite Sterling and Foden being on the pitch, and we had De Bruyne sometimes playing as a false nine, Gundogan sometimes there, but it never really felt controlled. It felt like ideas as opposed to execution. And that happens. Even Pep, makes mistakes sometimes. And I think he did make mistakes yesterday. We didn't know how to handle Harry Kane. Certain players were pushing into roles that didn't necessarily suit them. Foden didn't really look fully comfortable on the right. There's been talks about Foden's form in general. I think he's very much a sacrificial lamb for this team at the moment. He's doing the false nine role selflessly, but it's not a role that lets him really shine. But I think he's done pretty well there. He's effective. He's getting goals, and being involved. But yesterday, it wasn't his best decision to put Foden on the right from Guardiola. That's understandable. It happens sometimes. But Pep, I love him. Don't get me wrong. But I think yesterday he got it wrong. And I think there's still occasionally moments where Guardiola, if he fears someone, he fears a certain scenario, he can still probably overthink it a little bit. And I think yesterday he did that. We know how much he respects Harry Kane. He wanted to sign Harry Kane, of course. We know how much he's scared of Son on the break, and Lucas Moura mentioned previous game as well, even though he didn't start this. We know how much he respects Conte. He was nervous about this game, and I think this is where we got it wrong initially. Yesterday, there were some decisions that probably weren't the right ones. It can happen, of course it can happen, but it wasn't our best day yesterday. It happens though, it happens. City, of course, are in a great position. Liverpool now closing us down. Makes it a little bit more exciting, you know. You got that title race that you wanted, Sky and BT. There you go, you got it now. Who knows what's going to happen? I am confident still, because I do trust the players to react to this, and sometimes you do need a game like this to refocus the senses a little bit, basically, you know, and the senses will now be sharpened and heightened again. I would not be surprised if City won a few games in a row from this point onwards. We need to, if we're being honest. I do expect at some point Liverpool will slip up and drop some points. I don't know when it's going to be, but they're not going to win every single game from now to the end of the season, in my personal opinion. They could prove me wrong here. That still might not be enough for a little bit of luck, but I do think in general, it would be enough actually if they beat us as well, wouldn't it? Yeah, no, hopefully they don't win every game from now to the end of the season then. But either way, I'm feeling fine. I'm relaxed about it. Going straight to the pub after the game last night with some friends was really useful because they're not football fans. So we just chilled, talked about everything else. But either way, thanks for watching this video, guys. Big love to all of you. I'm tired, I'm hungover, but I'm accepting this loss now because it's a very normal part of football, and sometimes you got to lose to see the bigger picture. So I'm going to take the positives from it. We'll move on, we'll regroup, and I'm sure we'll come out firing against Everton. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Big love to all the Patreons. Scott Denham, you legend. Every single one of you is awesome. I'll catch you tomorrow for another video.